And if anyone tells you that I'm wrong, I'm telling you that they're wrong. And I beat them in the scale of importance.
Well, Josh, you're wrong. How's it going, everyone? I am Gospel with Weird Gaming Adventure, and today I'm going to talk about why Josh is wrong.
Welcome back, or welcome front if it's the first time joining us. I am Joshua with Weird Gaming Adventure, and today we're talking about PvP. More specifically, we're talking about hardcore PvP.
No, not that Josh. This Josh.
I'm Josh Strife Hayes.
Before I start digging into the criticism or, I don't know, debate or whatever I want to call it, I just want to say that Josh Strife Hayes has a lot of opinions I agree with, and that also I watch like all of his videos. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There's only so much time in the day, everyone. So what is Josh Strife Hayes wrong about? Well, he's wrong about the hardcore, full loot PvP MMOs. He admits himself that he really doesn't like the genre, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with not liking a certain genre of game or music or whatever. That's all on you, and it's all personal preference at the end of the day, and I don't mind. What I do mind is when he brings up points for why there shouldn't be like a AAA company making one or even attempting to make them. Or at least that's the impression I get when I'm watching his videos. So I'm gonna go point by point, breaking down what I don't agree with and what I do agree with when it comes to the hardcore full loot PvP MMOs.
Fans of the hardcore full loot PvP design like to claim if only a big company made a good game in that style, it would succeed. But let's just have a look at some numbers against your claims.
So real quick, he has a lot of videos and he's got a couple of videos about this. So I'm not going to use like the entirety of his videos. I will be placing snippets here and there. I do want to have my own original content. I don't want to just like leech off Josh Strife Hayes, but I do want to address this because it bothered me back when he released the video, and it still bothers me today, which is why I'm making a video. So he goes into revenue and popularity of MMOs. Now he compares World of Warcraft to Warzone, which I guess is sort of a fair comparison because they're both like online games, but they're not MMOs. World of Warcraft is an MMO, but Warzone is obviously not an MMO, although it's massive and it's multiplayer and it's online. So he goes on to say that Warzone made like, I think like 1.9 billion and World of Warcraft like 180 million or something like that. And I understand that games have to be profitable to exist and succeed and continue updates because they need a team working on them. However, they don't have to be World of Warcraft successful, and they don't have to be Warzone successful in order to be made. Just because a genre is niche, like the hardcore PvP MMO, doesn't mean that there isn't room for it to grow or for it to be somewhat profitable for companies, enough incentive to develop one. Then Josh says something I completely disagree with.
What MMORPG players tend to forget is that the MMORPG genre is actually relatively small within the greater gaming medium. You can even walk into a game shop and say MMO to someone, and a regular gamer might not even know what you mean.
I would really like to know what game shops you're walking into where regular gamers don't know what an MMORPG is. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard, at least in the Western hemisphere of this earth, of what World of Warcraft is, or heard of World of Warcraft in general. I mean, it spread like wildfire back in its heyday. I mean, I remember talking to girls that were completely clueless about video games back then, and they're like, oh yeah, I've got a guy friend, or my boyfriend plays that, or my husband plays that. I honestly don't know what kind of game shops you're walking into. It just seems kind of silly to me. I can't count the amount of times I've seen Horde and Alliance insignias as bumper stickers on the back of cars. And I've seen a lot more Horde than I've seen Alliance. It's tough out there, Alliance bros. My point is that World of Warcraft at this very moment is a cultural icon. Everybody knows what it is. I think we would be very, very hard pressed to find someone, especially in a gaming shop, who doesn't know what World of Warcraft is. And as time has gone on, online games in general have gotten massively popular, like Fortnite, Warzone, PUBG, and so on. And now we have Amazon trying their hand at making video games, and the one that they really put a lot of time in, the one that they developed themselves, New World, an MMORPG through and through. Now it has a lot of problems, yeah, but that doesn't take away from the massive amounts of hype that it did have and the massive amount of marketing that did for them. A lot of people are aware of what the MMO is, and I don't think it's all that small. Now, maybe revenue-wise, it's not as monetized well. Maybe. I'm not sure about that one. It's hard to debate that point. But people know what it is, and I think there's room to grow. Now, what grows games the most? Is it the hardcore players or is it the casual players? I think it's the casual players, and I think Josh Strife Hayes agrees with me.
Many people have said to me, well, you can make an MMORPG that makes enough money focusing on just hardcore players, and while I'm sure that's true, if you have spent the money, the time and the effort to make an MMORPG game, you will not be happy with a small amount of profit. If you have put in the capital to build an MMORPG, you will want a massive return on investment. This means you will need to cater to the casual audience as well as the hardcore.
Now this I totally agree with Josh on. To have a healthy player base, you need to not only appeal to the hardcore, but you also need to appeal to the casual player. So many MMOs do this. You think of Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, New World, whatever else you can think of. Any MMO with a significant player base has a casual audience. There are even games out there that are online only that have casual and hardcore players, like Path of Exile, Destiny 2, so on and so forth. We need casual players. Hardcore PvPers kind of need to change their mindset around that. But don't despair, hardcore MMO PvP players like myself. Just because a game caters to casual players sometimes does not mean that the hardcore experience has to be diminished or eliminated altogether. There's room for growth in this genre, and Josh said something kind of strange earlier in the video that I kind of want to highlight.
The MMO isn't a casual genre, even though it does have casual players.
So this is one thing I don't get. Josh says that the hardcore MMOs suffer because their population is small because they're not catering to casuals. Yet the other MMOs are not casual games, yet survive because they have casuals? I'm very confused about this. But because he is acknowledging that these other MMOs have large casual populations, I think that means that there's room for growth for the hardcore PvP MMO, as long as there's some catering to the casual population and things for them to do.
When a hardcore full loot game releases like Life is Feudal, Mortal Online 2 or Albion Online, we do see a surge of players at the start give it a go because novelty is interesting, but these games then struggle to hold on to players because of some of the design issues with full loot design in an endless game.
I can't attest for those other games, but he said Albion Online is struggling with its population. So, in the famous words of Josh Strife Hayes,
let's just have a look at some numbers.
So these are Albion Online's numbers when it first released on Steam. Now, I backed the game in alpha, and I played in the beta, and I didn't play at launch, but when I play Albion Online, I play outside of Steam. So let's just take a look at the Steam numbers. It releases in May 2018, and it was a paid-for product. You had to pay to play it. And obviously, this did not do well, and he's kind of right in his assertion that maybe it's not holding on too well. But then, in April 2019, it goes free to play, and it gets this hard drop-off going from 5,800 average players to 6,900 average, and then it just starts dropping off into the 2000s. But Albion made great strides to appeal to the casual player, And as you can see, the population grew from 2,000 all the way up to 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, and it just kind of retained those numbers. And now sitting at 5,000 again, waiting for another patch that is going to come and make the game more casual friendly.
But these games then struggle to hold on to players.
So that was a lie.
Before I move on to other things, I want to acknowledge other games that are considered hardcore PvP games. Mainly Rust and Ark. Now, Rust had also launched sort of like Albion, where it had a pretty good launch at first, and then it dipped down, and then as it got more updates, it became more and more and more and more and more popular. I mean, Rust is sitting pretty swell right now, and Ark really isn't far behind it. Both of these games are pretty hardcore PvP games. I don't think that the market isn't there, or that the market is even small when you consider games like Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown. Those games also have full loot PvP. I think Rust is especially more brutal because you don't even just lose your loot on you. You'll go to sleep, aka log out, log in the next day, and lose all your stuff. The point I'm trying to make is that the market for hardcore PvP MMOs is potentially larger than Josh Strife Hayes thinks, or most people probably even think, as we see games like Rust, Ark, Hunt Showdown, Escape from Tarkov, Albion Online. There's a potential market there. There's room for casual players in these hardcore games. With that out of the way, let's go on to the next topic.
If you spend hours and hours grinding dungeons and finally get the ultimate sword drop and then another player kills you and takes it, you will become extremely demotivated and not really feel like getting it again. But the player that killed you is now super happy he got a rare sword. One player is extremely saddened, another is elated. Unfortunately for player retention, this has been shown to lead to the defeated player quitting and the player base dropping. Some people have suggested one of the ways to balance this is to have the stats held on the character, not within the items, or to have weapons and armor be easily craftable or achievable, so killed players can restock quickly. But if this is the case, the armor another player can drop now isn't as valuable. You're not getting the super rare sword they spent days grinding for, you're getting the armor they spent 10 minutes crafting. Yes, you've removed the sadness from losing valuable items, but you've also removed the elation from gaining valuable items in a kill.
What if I told you you can have your cake and eat it too? Enter Albion Online. I know, I've mentioned Albion Online already, and I swear to God, this video is not sponsored by Albion Online. It's not. Sandbox Interactive has nothing to do with this video. They just happen to implement a lot of mechanics that I think would go very mainstream or well in a mainstream MMO hardcore PvP game. You know what I mean? So let's take a look at what they've got going on over there. All right, so here I am in Albion Online, and I want to explain how the loot works, how gear works a little bit, and help people understand what I mean by you can have your cake and eat it too. So basically, it's kind of like Josh Strife Hayes suggested, having skills on your character, sort of like your stats, and then also you have loot, and then you can have common loot that's easy, cheap to create, and effective. And then you can have that really rare loot, not necessarily rare, but expensive maybe, that people can take. And I'm going to explain how this works. So this is the Destiny board. This determines what your skills are in certain weapons. So you can see I've got like 100, level 100 for the dagger pair weapon. That is, means I'm more effective in using the dagger pair weapon. I do more damage, or whatever buffs that come with it are more effective, and so on. And I've got level 13 with daggers. So this is something you grind out, XP. It's called fame in game. But I'm at the auction house, and let's take a look at what happens when you want to be cost efficient and you want to actually roll out with something really nuclear, right? So let's say I'm just lollygagging around, minding my, goofing off, want to maybe see if I can kill a player or two and not risk much. I can buy a tier 5 dagger. And it's only 4K silver, which is not a lot in Albion. It really isn't much at all. And that's fine. I can roll a tier 5 dagger. But as you go up in tiers, you'll notice the price goes up. So a tier 6 dagger is 22K, a tier 7 dagger is 59K, and then a tier 8 dagger is 109K. So maybe you don't want to roll out with the 109K dagger. Maybe you want to roll out the tier 5 dagger. And then there's also enchantment levels. So you can get this way crazier, which is basically like additional tiers, but they don't call it tiers. They call it enchant levels for whatever reason. And you can enchant any tier of gear, I think, past 4 and up. To like level 3 enchant, and basically it'll, you know, increase the value and the damage and the stats of whatever is enchanted. So if you've got, you know, enchanted armor or enchanted weapons, it's going to be more valuable. As you can see, the tier 8.3, that's what level 3 enchant dagger, is 1.9 million silver. So that's a lot of silver. So if you kill someone who's got a tier 5 dagger with 0 enchant, you're not going to get much loot. But if they've got tier 8.3, you're gonna feel that elation, right? You're gonna feel joyous. And the person who lost it, they're gonna feel sad. But they don't have to feel sad because they can wear cheap gear and die with it and be okay financially in game. It's not that bad. You can have your cake and eat it too. I really liked using Albion as an example because the game becomes about what gear do I need to be most efficient for the cheapest cost. Now, some gear is just naturally expensive because it's in the meta, especially for things like Zerg versus Zerg, where hundreds of players duke it out. But it's still really, really unique, and it's really, really fun. And I really would love to see other MMOs pick up that very mechanic. If you got a casual day, you know, maybe you're not trying to be hardcore, maybe you just go out in some cheap gear. You can use cheap gear to get expensive items, right? You can go into solo dungeons or hell gates or whatever. Hell gates are basically like a thing you do with a buddy or a couple friends, and you go PvP in a PvE dungeon and, you know, fight for loot. It doesn't have to be super costly, and it's casual friendly. Casuals don't have to lose a ton. And if you are hardcore, you could go out with a, you know, tier 8.3, whatever. And you could just as easily lose it to a group of 5 casual players who are using tier 5 gear. I've seen it happen. It's happened plenty of times. Anyways, Albion has a lot of systems that are casual friendly. And if you're interested in playing a PvP game with full loot, Albion is definitely worth giving a chance.
But the single biggest issue for me with PvP hardcore MMOs is they do not reset, and the power gap grows and grows and never stops.
So basically what Josh is talking about here is that in his argument for this, a 1-month-old player versus a year-long player is going to be at a disadvantage because the power just keeps on increasing as time goes on, which is true for some MMOs, and I totally agree. I think this is something I actually agree with him on. I talked about Rust earlier. I own Ark, but I've never really played it, but I played Rust before. I've got like 200 plus hours into it, and Rust actually does reset, and I think this is something MMOs can actually learn from. I know Crowfall tried to try some sort of reset system, but here's the problem with a lot of the sandbox MMOs that Josh is not saying, is that all the systems outside of the full loot PvP in most of the full loot PvP games are ass. I looked at Mortal Online and it was garbage looking. I just couldn't take it. I could not take it. You look at New World, aside from all the bugs, please, we understand the bugs, but you look at like collecting stuff, like just feels good. Combat feels responsive. It feels good. It's just, it is so much more tuned. You know, it's got that quality of life. It feels quality. And that's what I think people are crying out for whenever they want a full loot hardcore PvP MMO by a AAA company. They want something that doesn't feel bad to play, because a lot of full loot PvP games do feel bad to play. They're either really old, which is, you know, not really their fault. They're just old games, or they're, you know, messes on launch and they die quickly and don't have good coding or programming or netcode or whatever. And there's just a slew of bugs for whatever reason. New World. Yeah, New World. Albion Online is very well polished, and I think it's a good example of what a hardcore PvP MMO can be. There's also a form of resets in Albion, although I don't think they go as far as what Josh is trying to say, so I won't argue that. I'll just say that Rust has resets and they're pretty cool, and I think it works well, and I think it could work well in MMO form. I'm already starting to see this in a little bit of like a little bit of desire for this in the Star Wars Galaxies emulator community, because PvPers, you know, they hit the gear cap so much and then they enjoy, like, you know, the climb up instead of just being at the top. Now there's one more thing I'd like to cover before we end this video.
What's up with people wanting a hardcore PvP but then no one plays it? The people that claim they want a hardcore PvP are the same people that claim they want an absolute no-holds-barred mixed martial arts fighting competition. If they actually entered, they'd get battered and then realise maybe they don't want this. That's what it is. It is literally, hey, I want something really tough and amazing and difficult, and then they try, and then they realise that actually they're not very good at this, and in their mind they were better at this, so they stop. It genuinely is people wanting something difficult so they can show off how good they are, and then when they actually, you know, get the chance to show off how good they are, they realise they're nowhere near as good as they think they are. They want to be the kind of people that ruffle stomp people, and then they try the game and they get ruffle stomped, which is an official phrase, and then they realise, hang on, it's not as much fun when I'm the one being killed.
Wrong. There's a lot of people that play the game because the risk of dying makes the game more thrilling. Having something to lose makes the game more fun. It makes the fights more intense. There's something I actually have talked about with friends in gaming where your hands will actually shake depending on the game, right? Like if you're playing Guild Wars 2 and you die in like structured PvP or world versus world, all you do is you just come back and it's not a big deal. But if you die in Albion or Rust, it's a big deal because you lose your loot. And it's more exciting. There's more adrenaline. It's a big adrenaline rush. And literally nobody gets away with playing a hardcore PvP game without dying. Not a single person. Everybody dies. It's just like life. Everybody dies.
The people who want hardcore PvP MMOs want to kill other people, but they don't want to be killed. That's the difference. They think they're awesome when they actually suck.
As opposed to as opposed to any other game, it's like, what other game do you want to die in? Do you want to die in League of Legends? Are you a feeder? Do you want to die in Guild Wars 2? Do you want to ruin your structured PvP matches and let other servers win in World versus World? How about ESO? Do you let the other factions win? I don't understand this statement. In no game do you want to die. Literally in no game. You just want to win. People want to win. So I don't know. That was like a nonsensical statement. I hope you weren't too serious with that one because it's true across every game. Anyways, that's all I had to say today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. This is Gospel with Weird Gaming Adventure. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.